Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back, everyone. Reduce the volume of the music a bit. There we go. So, hope you all had a good, quick break. Yes, good, quick break. And yeah, welcome back. For folks who are joining me for the very first time, please register first. Uh, Let me share the link in the chat once again. Welcome back. And yes, we are back. All of us are back. Yes, please register for the session. What are we building? We are building a Songmaker website, which is basically a clone of this project. It's not a very original idea, but it is what it is, right? Uh, it's just fun building stuff. Won't be able to build all the features, but I want to build a minimal. And we started by doing some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, where we only have done HTML till now. Uh, yeah, and this is what we have right now, right before we went on a quick break. We learned about waveforms, so sine wave and this and that. So that's pretty cool. What else? I think there's nothing else. For the time being, let's come back to our code base. So there was one header, there was a section. I'm going to call this section an area label of controls. Okay, because well, all the controls were here, and then there is the grid nodes grid, which will be down below. I can give it an ID of controls, and I can also this is good. This is good enough. This is fine. And okay, cool. So this is what we did right before we went on a break. Now after this main, I want to add or show you one quick thing. So we are going directly back into the coding. By the end, will we get this UI as well? Yes. I aim to finish the UI and the functionality. So two things by the end of this one. So that's why I said Godspeed this for this session. Now, one quick thing that I want to show you is there is something called as a no script tag, where if JavaScript is not enabled on your website, then you can show a helpful message to the user. So I'm going to say, please enable JavaScript to use this song maker project. So I was checking where. Yeah, I thought so. It will open in the wrong place. Yep. So there we go. So it doesn't make any difference per se, because well, JavaScript is enabled on our website. But what if we do disable it? So I can go into here, and I'm going to disable JavaScript, and I'm going to reload the page. And right now there is no JavaScript, but it shows please enable JavaScript. Okay, currently our project does not have any JavaScript, so it's not a problem. But in our case, please like this message starts showing up because we have disabled JavaScript. If I enable it back and I reload, that message disappears because this page will now allow us to use JavaScript. Okay, so no script is a very I think it's a very quirky slash very nice element where if you have JavaScript disabled, if a user for some reason, because if you disable JavaScript, you also disable ads, cookies, everything, right? All of those are JavaScript things. So By disabling JavaScript, you don't see ads, you don't see cookies, but you may also not see the website itself. Okay, so if I go here and if I disable JavaScript, okay, on the Visual Studio Code website, and I reload, that cookies thing goes away, but the website is still there because they have used HTML and CSS to build it, which is nice. Uh, but yeah, cookies would be gone and a lot of other things would be gone. Let me enable it back because otherwise I will be like, why is it not working? I wonder which website would be pure JavaScript website. Ah, I think I know which website would be pure JavaScript. Will it be? Doesn't look like it. Could be. Let's try. So if I go over to this one, site settings, JavaScript, block, reload. Oh, they still have it, but the colors are gone. Uh, so the JavaScript was filling up the colors, or at least trying to differentiate. Yeah, not the colors, but more like the dark and light mode. Okay. So JavaScript was taking care of that. Well, that is gone if you disable JavaScript on this website. That's not fun. I needed something where it would show, oops, can't use it anymore. Okay, so this is a quick note for folks, anyone who disables JavaScript. Now let's add JavaScript and let's also add a CSS file. So I'm going to create a file called as styles.css. I'm also going to create a file called as main.js. Okay. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So styles.css, this is where, of course, our CSS styles would go, or the styling of the website. And the main.js, this is where the code which will run the website, which will run the music tempo and the song maker itself will go. Let me go away and let's start from the styles.css. So step one, I am going to, like, let's show you a quick style, which is what my go-to is. As you can see, I've visited this website a lot of times, I think in every GHW. So this is the style that I really like. Why? Because it is minimal. Like, we are going to change it, but I want to show you something quickly. So this is a style that I really like. It is 200 bytes. So in 200 bytes, you have a very nice looking website. So I'm going to go to styles.css and I'm going to paste this. Okay, now let's understand the styles. In our index HTML, there is a HTML tag, and there's a HTML tag here as well. So if you hover over it, it says it is going to target anything which looks exactly like this. Is there something like which looks like that on our website? Yes, it is. And it is going to target that element, and it is going to provide some styling to it. It is going to say that the max width is going to be 70 characters. It is going to give some padding. Now M does not really make sense to me, so I'm going to say 32 pixels and 16 pixels or 8 pixels. Or actually, 64 pixels and 16 pixels. Margin is set to auto, which means it will be automatically calculated same on all sides. There's some line height which we can ignore, and there's a font size which I'm going to say is going to be 12 pixels. Okay, so I have added this style. Now my website should have some sort of styling. Let me also add a font dash family, and I'm going to go with fantasy. I have no idea what that looks like, but I'm going to go with it. I did format document, option shift F, or in Windows it would be alt shift F. And yeah, this is the style. Let's go and check our website. And it still looks the same. What? Really? Yes, this is because while we added the CSS, we did not connect our HTML to our CSS file. That connection usually happens on this top in the head. Okay, in the head of the document, you tell it that, hey, link this style sheet, okay, where the path to the style sheet is dot slash. So dot slash means in the same folder, and it is called as dot slash styles dot css file. So now if I go back, woohoo, there we go. This is, oh, this is what fantasy font looks like. It looks pretty nice actually. And if I change this to, let's say, monospace, this is what monospace font looks like. And there we go. It, while we change it in HTML, it applies to everything, all the children inside this HTML, which is why if I change the font family here, it also applies to H1 or any other tags that you see. I'm going to take this color and I'm going to put it on the top, and I am going to get rid of everything else. Okay, so this is what it is going to look like. I don't like this, so I'm going to change this to sans-serif, which I think is a nice looking font. Okay, simple, nice looking font. It is on everyone's system, because if you choose a font which is not installed on someone's system, you'll have to download it. Okay, there's a question, unable to link. So to link, all you have to do, and if I actually do a format document, yeah, there we go. And let me close this editor. So this is the CSS that we wrote, and this is the linking. It happens inside the head part of the website, and you say link. So if you actually in VS Code type link and you get this emit abbreviation, it will actually write everything. All you need to do is give it the correct file name. So I'm going to say it is dot slash styles dot css. Okay, you don't have to do it twice, just do it once. As soon as you do that, you can see like things are shifted below. There's something, like a bunch of things are happening. Now let's check it out. Okay, let's experiment with this. So as you can now see, there is HTML which has some width. The width 70 characters translates to 467.168 pixels at this zoom level. Okay, or actually any. I think 70 is too less. I am going to go for 100 characters. Okay, so let me change it in the code, 100 characters. Perfect. So now I have basically a bit more spacing. Padding is, if you see, so for every element, if I go to the, let's say, the body, there is a margin of 8 which is default around. I did not specify a margin of 8 anywhere. If I remove this, okay, so I did, still the body has some margin around it. I did not specify it, so this comes as default. Then the main itself, okay, that does not have any margin or border or padding. So margin is the outermost where you, so when you add a margin, you are basically saying push everything away from me. When you add a padding, you are saying squeeze this inside. Okay, margin, push everything away from me. Padding, squeeze me inside. And here the me refers to the content. So main itself does not have, and then you have a border. So if you add a border to something, example, if I have a main Okay, I have a main, and to that main tag I add a border of 2 pixels. It is a solid kind of border, and it is salmon color. There we go. So now my main has a border of 2 pixels, which is solid in shape. Okay, and it is 2 pixel, and it is touching the content exactly. The border is touching the content exactly because we are not squeezing the content, or we are not pushing anything out. Okay, margin is outside of it. So if I change margin to 20, okay, so now if I hover over it, there is this uneven margin all around, but the border is still hugging the content. So if I have to give a spacing between the border and the content itself, also reloading will remove it, I can add a padding. So this is us saying that squeeze the content inside. And there we go. Now there is some spacing between the border and the content. Okay, this is the content. So this is called as the box model of CSS. And all you really need to know is what will apply where. Okay, just remember, margin is the outermost. Move everything away from me. Border is the border which hugs the content, unless you have some padding where you say the content is squeezed inside. Okay, the border remains where it is, but the content itself is squeezed inside. uh, but now this applies to the main tag. Actually, I don't want to apply it to main tag, I want to apply it to the h1 tag. I can change this main to h1, and there we go. uh, okay, now this h1, I think I want to squeeze the content inside. So I'm going to say a padding. I want the same padding on all sides, so I'm going to say 2 pixels on all side. Okay, perfect. So there is the border uh, around the h1 tag. Done. And it is, I think it's pretty simple to understand now, right? What does this mean? Well, more pixels also means like more squeezing inside. Like, let's say if I make this 40 pixels, okay, you have squeezed all of the content inside, which is fine. There's the border. From the border, you have squeezed the content inside, but you need more spacing now. And that's why this has grown. I think 4 pixels on all sides should be fine. Uh, I want to change the font family of this one. So I'm going to say font family is going to be that fantasy. That looks nice. Ah, no, doesn't look nice with the border. Uh, Going to give it monospace. Perfect. Okay, so that is some bare minimum CSS. Now, if I have another h1 tag example in here in this particular section 2, right before this particular section 2, I have a div tag, which actually does not mean anything. You remember, div tag does not mean anything, but inside this div tag I have a h1 which says notes grid below. Now, even that has the same style, but I don't want it to have a same style. I want it to have a different style. And to do that, we'll need to understand how can I select this particular H1. Now, there are multiple ways to select this particular H1, but let's try the easiest and the simplest way. The easiest and the simplest way is to assign it a class or you can assign it an ID. Either of them will work. Now, ID, okay, is supposed to be a unique identifier in the whole document. So if you have same IDs for multiple things on the same document, then it's a problem. Let's start with ID first. Let's call this as notes dash grid. So now I want to select the notes dash grid. So I am going to say notes dash grid, and I'm going to give it a font family of monospace and a background color of aquamarine. Okay, so I've done that. So now notes grid should have that color. I go and nope, it doesn't. Why? Because if I hover over it, as you can see, the CSS is looking for an element which looks like this, which looks like angle bracket nodes dash grid. But ours does not look like it. Ours looks like has an ID here. So to target an ID, you use the hashtag. Okay. So now if I hover over it, it says it is going to search for any element where the ID is exactly nodes dash grid. Okay. That's what this means. So if I hover over it, as it says, so it will find any element, and it could be one or multiple element. But remember, IDs are supposed to be unique. So always keep them unique. But it will find any element where ID matches this nodes dash grid. And as soon as it finds it, it adds it. But it still has a border. Why? Because we have said all H1s need to have this particular border. Okay. Uh, so now you will see the cascading of, or not even cascading, but you will see the style sheet, how it gets applied. We have said that they find an ID of nodes grid. It found it, it applied the CSS. And then it was like, okay, I am done inside. Now let's go one level up. What is the one level up? What is the element? H1. Does H1 have any style defined? Yes, it does. It has a border defined, it has a padding defined. So let me also add that. But you don't want to add it. Do you want to add it? Depends on you. I don't want to add it. So that is why you should use the HTML tag styling very rarely, because this is going to cause problems for so many things. So now I have to, if I have to remove the border, I have to set the border to 0 or border none, let's say. Okay, so now that removes the border, but there's still the case of padding. So I have defined in the notes grid, I want to override all styles of H1. So I'll also need to change the padding to 0, I think. Perfect. So now this is what it looks like. Okay, and as you can see, this is all crossed off because we have explicitly set them or reset them in notes grid. Okay, so if this is unselected, then it will go down and search for a matching property. Cool. So that is how CSS works. So this is one way. Another way is, instead of using an ID, you can use a class. So if I use a class, it doesn't get applied because now it is searching for element with ID nodes grid. To target a class, you do a dot. So now if I hover over it, it is going to search for every element where the class matches this nodes dash grid word. And now if I come back, there we go. It still works. Nice. Okay. If I change this color to, let's say, bright yellow, yeah, it works, right? So now you have learned about class, ID, and how to style something, right? Isn't this cool and easy? Okay. So the reason why we use classes is because it is supposed to be reusable. When I say supposed to be, what that means is that you should reuse classes in general. So I can take this class name and I can apply it anywhere. Isn't that cool? So I can go over to my button, let's say, and I apply this class notes grid, and it applies that to the play button. The play button no longer looks like a button, it looks like a text. But I can apply that class. Let's not do that though. So I've removed that. I'm also going to remove, not remove it. Should I remove it? Actually, yes, I will remove it. Like you all have learned, I don't have to push this anyways. Uh, 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 uh. You have learned what it means to have a notes grid. That's fine. H1 is fine. Okay, now let's get into the code. If I don't have any style, okay, I've commented out every style that I have, you can see that there is still some default styles applied. We actually talked about it, right? There's some default styles applied. I don't want that. That is very conflicting. It makes my calculation worse. Okay, so if I have to calculate 2 pixels away from somewhere, I have to take into account that, like in the body, there is a margin of 8 set somewhere. Okay, so I need to reset all the css that is default applied. I need to tell it that use, like when you do the calculation of, let's say, 2 pixels inside, 5 pixels outside, blah blah blah, I want you to ensure that it is done from the border box. uh, so I've used the word border box. It comes from, I think, box dash sizing. Yes, box sizing. So you can read all about it, but it's box sizing content box. Take a look at this box sizing content box, but it can go outside if you have an extra border. If you have box sizing border box and you have an extra border, uh, it is not going to go outside of it. Okay, so I've said that there is a padding of 5 pixels on all sides, but there is this border of 10 pixels. It can go outside of the container, but if you use box sizing border box, it will ensure that none of the child element go outside of parent container. In content box it could, but in border box it won't. Let me share this link in the chat. Okay, so let's start writing some css. Step one, I'm going to, like, you have seen the css, so let me just delete everything. I'm going to say box sizing is border box. Okay, now that I've done that and I go back, there's still some margin and padding, but that's fine. But now I know the calculation will happen from where. Now I'm going to say that margin is going to be 0 and padding is going to be 0. I've used a HTML tag called as star, which means for every element, which is header, body, main, input, label, button, section, blah, 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 it will be box sizing border box, margin 0, padding 0. Cool. And now everything is hugging the uh, the, the 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 edges of my page, which is fine because now my calculations are much easier and much understandable. So if you see 20 pixels somewhere, it means 20 pixels. It does not mean 20 pixels plus 8 pixels. Okay. uh, for all the HTML and the body tags, which is actually one HTML and one body tag, I want to ensure that the height is 100%. 100% of what is visible to you. It does not make any difference, but as we add more and more content, this will make a, like it, this will ensure that it uses everything, or all the height. Now we can also repeat tag. Okay, so I have said that HTML and body tag need to have height 100%, but body tag especially also needs to ensure that the background color is going to be burly wood. Okay, uh, and the color of the text in that should be coral, and that looks ugly. But that's fine, we'll improve this. Now we have said that the body tag itself needs to ensure, like in the body tag, the background color for everything would be set to burly wood and the color of the text would be coral. Actually, if I can also have colors which would be defined as RGB values. I say 100 in red, 24 in green, and 220 in blue, and I end up with this very nice looking purplish color. Okay. Uh, you can also have a hex color. So if I go hashtag AA23FF, okay, that gives this very nice purple, which again looks ugly. So let me soften the blow, and the color itself, we can make it a bit more darker towards the black. And there we go. Nice soft colors, right? Doesn't that look good? I like my uh, websites to be in dark mode most of the times. So I'm going to use a very nice trick. Okay. Not trick, but more like, let's say, if I want to repeat this color every time, I have to do it like for every element, right? If I want to repeat a color, I have to do it for every element. Instead, what if I have a variable in CSS so that I don't have to repeat it? So when I say repeat it, I mean, let's say I want all the sections to have background color actually to be this RGB. Okay, so the sections themselves should have that color. Uh, and now I have to copy this again if I have to do something else. And it just becomes too cumbersome if you have a lot of files and you have a lot of folders and you're like, okay, which color do I have to copy again? And what does that mean? Does that show background color? Does that show this or that? It's easier to have a variable. So let's create some variables. So to create variables, you do :root, which means this is the root element uh, or a property that applies to every element. Okay. In here, I can define colors. So you use the syntax as dash dash bg. So this bg could be anything. Okay. So dash dash my name is ut as a color or as a variable value, and you can give it some value. So 0, let's say 0f1 72a semicolon. Okay. So there is this particular color. I can take this color now and I can go over to this background and I can use it by calling var my name is ut. And there we go. We have a dark mode on. But my name is ut is not very nice understanding name. So I'm going to change it to dash dash pg or background. We need a text color as well. So dash dash text. I'm going to say that would be hashtag E5 E7EB and semicolon. And I'm not using it, so let's use it. So I'm going to say that the color should actually be the text color, semicolon. There we go, text color. Uh, oh, my name is UT is not a valid background color anymore. That's why it's not dark. PG. There we go. Nice, right? Looks good. I'm going to remove the section part. But now you know about variables. We'll use a lot of variables. So let me create all of them quickly. Dash dash panel, which would be 7 dash dash a line, which would actually be 43244 dash dash cell, which would be 0E1A2B dash dash cell dash active. So when it is an active cell, I want it to have a different color. 18334F. Text is there, dash dash muted, which would be hashtag 9A7B8 and dash dash accent 22DCE. Perfect. We're not using all of them, but this is what we will use eventually. So now we have dash dash bg, variable panel, line color, cell color, active cell color, text color, muted color, and accent color. And you can find more colors, like you can create your own colors and get the hex by using one of the projects that we built as part of a previous global hack week. I still have to get back to this, I know. But you can basically choose, oh, I want a color like this, more blue, let's reduce the red, or let's say you can do it here, and you can get the hex of it automatically, and you can also generate multiple shades of it. Okay, you can add another color set, and you can say, okay, I want this particular color first as my base, and then I want to slightly darken it, and then generate colors, and now you have a different shade, right? So yeah, you could do that. You can then export all the colors and get the hex code in CSS, and you can use it. You don't have to create by your own. Okay, you can just use these hex codes, and see, it says in the root you have to use these variables, but the variable name will now not be bg or something. It would be primary 50, primary 100, blah blah blah. I can copy this code actually, and I'm going to replace this, and we have so many colors, yay. But I'm going to go with the bare minimum. But you could use this website that we created. Actually, I keep saying we because I'm proud of what we created in this. We also created another one, right? I forgot the name of it. I don't think I'm using it right now. Okay, and the font family for all of it, I'm going to go with sans serif, very simple font. Yeah, Songmaker JS. And now let's start adding some styles. So we have a excuse me, had a sneeze. Okay, so we have a header section. I'm going to give it a class, let's say app dash header, and we know how to target something. Also for comment, you can do command forward slash on Mac or control forward slash on Windows to add a comment. So I'm going to say header, and I'm going to say dot app dash header. Now this one will have display flex, align items, baseline, justify content. Does the header even need all of this actually? Okay, the H1 can have a class name called as title. I'm going to target that title by saying font size is going to be 20 pixels and margin is going to be 0. Okay, so it is reduced font size. Nice. This is fine. But everything is so left aligned, right? That does not look good. So to this body itself, I'm going to, or actually to this main, I'm going to give it an ID of app. Okay, our main app. So I'm going to say hashtag app since it's an ID. I'm going to give it a max width of 960 pixels, let's say, and margin is going to be 0 and auto, and padding on all sides is going to be 12 pixels. Okay, perfect. Also, you have to save the files. Okay, I have autosave on. If you have missed it till now, remember autosave is on for me, so it keeps on saving the files. Don't need all of this. Perfect. Okay. Don't even need this. So what I've done is I've added some margin bottom to this song maker. Uh, for this title, I can say a text decoration of underline, so that there is this very nice underline around below this song maker thing. I don't really want it, so I'm going to remove it, but this is what it will look like. Perfect. So we have the header done. Now let's focus on the controls section, right? So I'm going to say I had an ID control, so hashtag controls display flex wrap align items center, gap of 10 pixels, and margin I want 10 pixels on all sides. Perfect. So now if I do that, there is some spacing around everything. If I go into the inspect and I focus on this particular section, let's go into main header section. Yes, this is what we have. Actually, margin left looks weird, so I can actually all margins are divided into 4 parts: top, right, left, sorry, top, right, bottom, left. Okay, so it goes clockwise: top, right, bottom, left. Cool. So I can divide this margin into top 10 pixels, right 0 pixels, bottom let's say 10 pixels, and left 0 pixels. So now if I go to this section and I check what it has, as you can see, top 10 pixels, right 0 pixels, bottom, like if I make it like let's say 15 pixels. Okay, there we go. Top, right, bottom, and left 0. Cool. But I would prefer this to be 0. Perfect. So now that is done. So like we have the overall controls. The next thing is we want the buttons. Okay, let's start giving some classes. So I'm going to give it a class of btn button, and I'm going to give this one a class name of tempo input. This has a class name of .btn, but btn. This will have a .tempo dash input when we use it, And the select itself, let's give it a class as select or wave select. Okay, so now I want to target all of these which are in this one section. So I want to change the button, the dot wave dash select class, comma, dot tempo dash input class. Okay, so I want to target all of these. So if I hover over it, as it says, it will find any element where the class matches button btn, sorry, uh, or and wave select, uh, not and or tempo input. Okay, so any of these three will have, all three of them will have the same style. So the style that I want to give is border 1 pixel solid. By the way, other than solid, you have dashed, I think. Yes, dashed. And we are going to give it the variable of line. Okay. So now that I've done that, there we go. This is how it looks. Dashed border line. Solid would be much better. So I'm going to give it solid. I'm going to ensure that the border radius is of 6 pixels. The background color is going to be the panel color. The padding would be 8 pixels on top. Right would be 10 pixels. Bottom would be 8 pixels and left would be 10 pixels. Okay, this is how it looks like. The only problem is it is not visible, first thing. Second thing, I think this we can shorthand this as well. So you are setting, like we are setting top, right, bottom, left, but the values of top and bottom are same, left and right are same. So I can actually do just 8 and 10 pixels and that will still look the same. Let's give it a color as well. So I'm going to say var dash dash text, the text color. And there we go. Looks much better, much cleaner. Even the clear and randomize button, sorry, text, we can technically give them the same colors, right? Or since we are using classes, we can copy this class btn and paste it for clear button and random button. There we go. All of them now look the same. This is a drop down. This is an input. This is a button. Okay, perfect. Now this looks nice. The only other problem is now button does not have that click effect. Okay, so let's do that. So I can again target just the button and I can say that on a button, the cursor should be pointer, and on just a button, when you hover over the button, so there is a, what's the word for it, hover state. Yes, there's the state that you can choose. So I can say that on hover, the background color should actually change to this lighter version. So I'm going to use var and I'm going to say change it to the cell active color. Okay, default is panel color, change it to cell active color. So now if I hover over it, as you can see, the color changes and the cursor also changes, right? So now this gives a feeling of, oh, yep, uh, we are hovering over something and yeah, working with it. Another attribute that you can target is the disabled attribute. So I'm going to say that when it is disabled, change the opacity or the visual to 0.6, which means 60%. It should only be 60% visible, and change the cursor to a not allowed cursor. Okay, perfect. Let's check it out. Everything is currently enabled, but if I go to this clear button and after this class, I just add a disabled. Okay, as you can see, the cursor now goes into not allowed. It does have the hover state. We should also remove the hover state, right? Okay, uh later, I think. Okay, so this is what a disabled will look like. Reload everything and go on. Perfect. Cool. uh Instead of cell active, I think I would like to give it, what is the panel color? The panel is this one. Okay, so now I think a lighter version up here. Perfect. This is nice. I can. I think I can do this. Colon not disabled. Then do a hover. I think this is how it will work. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so if you want to remove the hover color from disabled, you can assign the hover color on when it is not disabled. So using the not, we can say for this dot button, okay, for this dot button, if it is not in a disabled state, assign this hover color. But if the button is disabled, don't assign this hover color. And if I hover over it, does not assign that color. But if it is not disabled, there we go. This is how it looks like. So you can go into details of things. You can go like, I can do this and that. Now for all my span elements, which is basically just two of them, I can give them a class of divider. Okay, and let's dot target the dot divider, and we will say that the opacity is zero point 0.6 again, and the color of the divider itself is going to be a muted color. Okay, so there we go. There's the divider, and it is a muted color. Okay, cool. So okay, oh, there's a few things. I have interest in Netlify. What can do to utilize and optimize it for my projects? Uh, so Netlify is for hosting, which we will talk about on the last day, which is tomorrow in the last session. So don't worry about it. Screen is very tiny. The session will be recorded. So it will be on YouTube later on the Major League Hacking YouTube channel. Not will be recorded, it is currently being recorded. So if you actually go to YouTube and if you search for Major League Hacking on YouTube, there we go, live session. So you can basically zoom in and stuff when you, yeah, check it out on YouTube. And I cannot stay on one website because, well, I have to show everything. And please work one website. I don't understand this comment. I don't understand this comment. Sorry. Okay. Following along, which is nice. I'm learning, but I can't keep up. Well, we didn't do much. All we did was just style a bunch of things. So that is fine. Uh, we talked about var colors, how it is just variables. And yeah, I think this was the most complicated bit. You know what? I'm going to remove this part. I'm just going to leave it as is. We know what is .btn. It is the class name. We've divided. I think I personally, I think this has been fine. But yeah, I am so sorry if you think I'm going too fast. Okay, this is the CSS. This is all the CSS that we need for the time being. Okay, this is fine enough. Now let's go over and push this. So I'm going to do git add all, git commit session 2 added basic CSS and git push. Okay, so now this is pushed and you can play along with it. You can find all the code by going to the GitHub repository. Okay, there's a question. Are there any other states like changing the text of play to pause after being clicked? Yes, you can, but that would not be a CSS state. That would be JavaScript. You are talking about functionality, right? So HTML is what is shown on the website. That is the markup. With CSS, we made it pretty looking. Now, clicking and adding some value, removing some value, all of those come into functionality, and the functionality is via JavaScript. So let's talk about that functionality for a bit. Actually, let's start building that functionality. So we have done all the basic CSS in my opinion for the time being. Okay, now let's talk about JS or the main.js file. So step one, we first should link this file to our index.html. So to link a JavaScript file, okay, it is not same as linking a CSS file. A JavaScript file, like for X number of reasons, which if the time permits, we'll talk about it tomorrow. But you link a JavaScript file by adding a script tag. And you define a source, src, and the source will be the link to the file, the path to the file. So the file is in the current folder, so that is dot slash main.js, which means we are referring to a file in this same folder. And if I control click over it or command click over it, it takes me to that file. Okay, so that means this works. We have successfully linked a script file. If I just type script, you can see like there are three versions: there's script, there's script module, there's script source. Okay, let's go over to our main.js file and let's write some JavaScript. Okay, so when I say some, I mean bare minimum. Okay, so the first line of JavaScript that I'm going to write is going to be console.log document. Option shift F. So I have done console.log document, Now let's go over to our project. Do we see anything here? Nothing. We don't even know what console.log means, but if you right click and inspect, you remember this elements tab, right? Similarly, there's a console tab, and this is what it is showing. Let me say here GHW underscore debug, and GHW underscore debug, well, I'm pretty sure that is coming from me, and then it shows this document. As soon as I hover over it, it shows me everything that was available in this elements tab. Doc type HTML, head, body, blah 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 blah. Okay, so when I did a console log document, it returns a reference to the document contained in the window. What is the document? The document is everything that we see on the page. This is the whole document. That is why we say doc type. Document type is HTML because this is the document. So when I console log that or print that, in a way, it shows me the whole document in the console. What if I only want to select, okay, pick and choose this main with an ID of app? Okay, can I just console log that part? Let's try it. So I can do console.log. I know that we have a document. Actually, we can also run everything here in console itself. So I'm going to write document and I'm going to hit enter, which returns me the whole document. As you can see, it has head part, it has body part, like everything. But what if I want to do document dot get element by ID? I want the ID of app, and I hit enter. So now it returns me just the main with ID app. Okay. Previously it had the head and body part, but now it only returns me the main. What if I only want the section with ID controls? So I can do controls, and there we go. So now it returns me, okay, this. So when I hit enter, it returns me, okay, or it shows me back something, and I'm using it returns me this section. Okay, what if I have same ID twice? Okay, this is why we say that don't have same ID twice. Let's see what happens when you have the same ID twice on a page. So this is just for experiment. So I gave controls, the ID controls, to two different elements. Okay. So let's try. I do document.get element by ID controls, and it still returns me just the first one. It does not return the second one. Actually, let's not give it to controls. I will create a separate section, and inside it I will say hello, and I will give it an ID of controls. Okay, so I should see hello, and now if I do get element by ID controls, it again returns me the first one. Okay, if I take this before section 1, so hello, and now I do get element by ID, it returns ID control, but it is the hello one. So it, even though we have two sections with the same ID, it returns the first one. Okay, so that is why you should always have it unique, so that it returns the exact one that you want. But what if I want two of them? Okay, what if I actually want to see all the elements which have the same ID? Well, don't use ID, use class. Oops. So we can do document dot get element by class name, and I want all the elements by the class name of button. We know that this is thrice, right? And I hit enter and it returns a HTML collection of button.btn. Okay. Bec- and a button's hashtag clear button.btn. This hashtag is because we have given it an ID. So if I give this button an ID of, let's say, play, and I do it again, now I have button hashtag play.btn. The .btn refers to the class name. So the first button, the proper word button, it refers to the HTML tag, then it refers to the ID, and then it refers to the class. Okay, and as you can see, it says length is 3. Okay, so length is 3 for this. So there are 3 buttons with the same class name. Perfect. What if I only want to target the 0th one? So I can do square bracket 0, which means from this 3, I want the 0th. As you can see, that had this 0 here. So you can think of it as, like, not think of it, it is the position of it in the array, and I wanted the 0th one. So there's also a 1. So that should return me the clear button. There's also a 2. That should return me the random button. There's also a 3. Actually, no, there isn't. There is only 0, 1, and 2. But you also see this clear button. Okay. Where is that coming from? Do you think we can target it? So it's saying, we know that in square bracket, we can write a number which returns me the value of this key. What if I type clear button? And it returns me the clear button. Okay, interesting. How did it know? Okay, how did it know? This is because of the ID. IDs, if you remember, are supposed to be, again, unique. So if I remove these two things and I try it again, the clear button and random button are gone from here. It only has 0, 1, and 2 and play, because the only play has an ID. So we can reference something by an ID if it is a unique ID. What if I have the same ID for another button? Okay, I am getting the element by class name, but I have two play buttons, as in like two play ID. Then it only shows once, because it's like you don't have a unique key. So it goes to the first one, basically. So ID unique. Why unique? We have seen now. Okay, we now know why it should be unique, because, well, then it becomes a key. If it becomes a key, then it's nice. Okay, and we now know how to target an element by ID. We also know how to target an element by class name. Okay, and what we are writing here in console, that is JavaScript. Simple, plain and simple JavaScript. Okay, so what else? Okay, cool, let's go in. uh, I'm going to go to the main.js, and I'm going to remove all of this, and I am going to okay, let's target a grid. So I'm going to say const grid equals document dot get element by id grid, and we will console log at every point. So let's see, I reload, and there's a section grid which it is accessing. So that means it has found an element with the ID grid. Okay. Once it has found the grid, I want it to create an element inside the grid. Okay. So inside the grid, I want it to create an element. So I'm going to say const layout. Okay. Const. Yeah. See, I kind of assumed that everyone would know what is a const. So const and let are two ways of defining a variable in JavaScript. Uh, well, actually, there are three ways of defining a variable in JavaScript. There's a var, there is a const, there's a let. Uh, Const is for constant. Okay. So a constant is if you assign a value to a variable, you cannot reassign it. Cool. Example, if I go back to our console, our live JavaScript, and I do a const, my name, okay, is equal to ut. Okay. And I hit enter. My name, if I type it, it will be ut. But if I change it, my name, to be mlh, it says uncaught type error, assignment to constant variable. You're trying to reassign the value to a constant variable. It's supposed to be constant, so please don't do that. That's what it's saying. So that is one way to define a variable, where you're saying that it is constant, it is not supposed to change. Then you have another type of variable called as a let variable. So let my name equals ut. Oh, well, my name is already defined, so I cannot do that. My name let is ut. Now if I say my name let equals to mlh, it will be like, yes, your name is mlh. Yeah, agreed, 100%. So this, what you see here, so let's break this down. Okay. Again, it is all syntax, it is a convention, you don't have to worry about it. But what is the convention? So the convention to define a variable is, you first tell it what is the type of the variable. Is it a constant, or is it a, it is not constant, it is let, or you can say it is reassignable. Okay. So is it a constant variable, or is it supposed to be reassignable later? Like, do you know for sure that it will be reassigned later? If you know for sure that yes, I am going to change my name, why? Because I love to change my name, then use let. If you know that once you have assigned your name, you don't want to change it, it is done and dusted, use const. So const is the keyword. Okay. So I use a keyword called as const. And then what is the name of my variable? A variable, as everyone says, it's like a box. I don't think it's like a box, but okay. Imagine like it is a box. So it is a constant box, which means once a value goes inside it, what is the value? We give it a value using the equal to. So we say that take this value. So always read the code from right to left most of the times. Okay. So you will say that I'm taking this value ut, which is in double quotes. Why? Because it's a string. Okay. So it's a string value, and I'm putting it inside my name box, which is of type constant. Okay. So it cannot be reassigned. And once you have done that, then every time you type or print my name, it will remember it as ut. Another way is, what if I take this ut name, like my name ut, and put it in a box, my name let, and it is a let type of variable, which means that it can be reassigned. So if I would have printed it for the first time, it would be ut, but then if I reassign it, I can take a new value, put it in the same box, it changes. So my name let equals GHW. Now if I print my name let, it's GHW. So it started with UT, changed over to MLH, and then changed to GHW. I frequently change my name, it seems. Okay, so coming back. So now you know what is this const and what is this. We also know what is get element by ID. Now on this layout, let's run this line by line in the console because we can. Excuse me. So if I do grid, I get this whole section, okay, which does not have anything inside it, but I want to put something inside it. So let me try this out. Okay, so I want to grid dot create okay, create element. Okay, I'm going to create an element. I'm going to create a div element, or let's say h1 element on the page. Okay, this is for testing only. So const layout is equal to document.create element h1 layout dot text content. I'm going to say that is equal to hello GHW, and now to the grid I want to append child layout. Perfect. Cool. So we did three things. Okay, let's talk about those three things and what is this dot and what does that even mean and blah blah blah. Okay, let's do it step by step. I'm going to copy this over. Oh, it's gone. Shit. I should have done it quicker. Anyways, let's talk about when we did the document dot get element by class name and we did button. Okay, we got three buttons, but we also got, since we had a unique ID, we can also refer it by ID. So if I only wanted this clear button, for example, okay, I could do square bracket clear button, and that would return me the exact button, okay, that it is referring to. But since clear button is a text word, I think technically also do a dot clear button, hit enter, and that also returns me the same thing. Why is this possible? Because of this HTML collection, which actually has this key colon value. Okay, so instead of doing square bracket, if let's say if I have square bracket 0, that no, what is clear button at? Clear button is at square bracket 1. Okay, so square bracket 1 tells it that get a value from this particular position, but you can also, if you know the key to that position, you can also do a dot, use the dot notation, okay, a dot convention to follow the key, okay, or get something by a key name, and it will return the value. Question for you is, what if I try to do that by dot zero? That doesn't work. So we know that it only works for a string name, not for a number. uh, is that true or false? That is what you need to find out. Okay, what if you explicitly define something by zero? It will work, I think. Not I think, I know. It will work if you explicitly define it. Here in this case, you have not defined it. uh, 0 1 and 2 are not defined anywhere. This is just their positions in the array. That is why it is, yeah, it is showing it to us. Okay, now uh, let's try again. So dot clear button, it returns me this button. I also know that I can get to that element by using the square bracket notation of 1, which returns me the same thing. What if I try to do a dot on it? Or actually, what other properties? Yes, let's say it that way. What other properties are inside this document.get element by class name button, the first button? So that can be found if you just do a dot, and it tells you that these are all the properties that are available on this particular button. Okay, there is a access key, add event listener, after, animate, append child, aria atomic, aria busy, like so many. Okay, so you can actually read about these things. But let's say if I ask it, okay, tell me what is the dot client height, it tells me that this button has a height of 31. Is that true? So this button has 15 plus 8 8. Wait, am I looking at the right button? 31.865. Why was I doing the calculation? Sorry, excuse me. Okay, so 31.865 and it returns 31. What about if I want to know the width? It says 52. How did it come up with 52? 10 plus 10, 20. 20 plus 10, 30, 35. Nope, that does not look right. Oh, this is the height. This is the width. Sorry, my bad. So it is 8 plus 8 plus 15 plus 0.667 plus 0.667. Let's see. Uh, 8 or let's start from the very top. 0.667 plus 8 plus 15.333 plus 8 plus 0.667 comes out to be 32.667, but when I do a client height, it says 31. Okay, the client width, let's calculate that. It is 31.865 plus 10 and 10. So 10 plus 10 plus 0.667 plus 0.667, 53.199. But I don't think these two are valid. We don't set those properties, and you can't have a pixel which is in decimals, so it comes down to 50. 52 or 51 if you change it. Yep, 52. Cool. So pixels are not in decimals, pixels are a whole value. So please don't focus on the pixels part, but what you could focus on is instead that we can actually get the element height, okay, which is top to bottom, and element width, which is left to right. Okay. So these are all the properties that exist. Now, one of the properties that exist is called as append child. Okay. So append child, what that does? Append child, it appends something to the selected element. Okay. So you can, yeah, do anything or create something. Okay, you can create something, create an element, and then append that element to the document. Okay. And append is basically adding. Very simply, append is nothing but adding to the page. So what we tried to do was we tried to do a document.getElement by id grid, so that we have reference to the grid which is somewhere here but just not visible because there is nothing inside it. So we first got that element. Now on that grid element, okay, we need to create, actually not on that grid element, let's say my temp h1, we created another h1, my temp h1. So we have created a h1 tag. Actually, technically we have created a h1 tag. Now on that h1 tag, or let's say for that grid, I want to append child my temp h1. Okay, so now there should be inside the section a h1 which comes before because of JavaScript, but this h1 does not have any text content inside it. So I can do that by doing my temp h1 dot text content and give it some text content. The text content that I want to give it to you, give it is bye bye. So now when the page loads, previously as per the HTML it's not there, but as per the JavaScript, when the JavaScript finally finishes loading, or let me do a console log here. Start loading JS, finish loading JS. Okay, so now if I go to the console, start loading JS, finish loading JS, we can also say created my temp h1. So it starts loading JS, created my temp h1, finish loading JS. And at the end of finished loading, we now have a section which inside which we have a h1 element with bye bye written. So this is more like git add all, git commit session 2 learn JS, git push. Okay, so now that we have pushed this, how much am I doing on time? Okay, not too good. So let's do this. We get the grid, and let me remove all of this. Once we have the grid, we want to build a grid UI. We want to build some rows and columns on the page. So I'm going to say const layout equals document dot create element, and I want to create a div tag, and I want to give it a grid dash layout as an option. And finally, I'm going to do grid dot append child layout. Okay, let's see how this looks. So I have my main, I have my section 2 grid, inside which I have a div. Actually, no, this create element as a tag name. Yes, we did that. And options. Okay, anyways, next I want to layout dot class name equals grid dash layout. Perfect. So now if I reload, yep, there we go. Okay, so what I'm trying to do slash what I'm doing, I am trying to uh, create this div element, okay, inside the section, and I'm giving it a class name of grid layout. There's a very interesting question: why are we adding the div and grid via JS and not HTML? So we can add it via HTML, but then it will be stuck to those many. Like, I want it to be more flexible, so that instead of, let's say, having uh, I want, so grids, okay, so we are creating a grid. How many columns do we have here? We have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16, I think. Okay, 16 into 2, 32. Okay, so we have 32 columns, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 12 13 14 and maybe two more, 16. So 32 cross 16. Okay, that is the number of rows and columns we have. If we have uh, those many, that is fine. We can create a HTML with just those many. But what if we want to add more, or what we want to subtract? Okay, let's only have a grid of 4 columns and 4 rows. So then we'll have to go back to HTML and change it. Is that good? Is that nice? Not really. JavaScript gives you functionality. It gives you the opportunity where you can, just change one thing, one tiny thing, and everything just builds up. Okay. You write your code in such a manner that everything just builds up. So that is what we are doing with JavaScript. Okay. Yes, that makes sense. Nice. Perfect. Uh, okay, so now we have created a grid element, and we have given it a class name as well. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. Okay. To give it a class name, you do a dot class name on an element and give it some value. Perfect. Next is we want to create the labels column. So we will again do document dot create element div, and labels call dot class name equals labels left side. Okay. Uh, Next, I want to create a spacer element between them. So again, I can copy this, and instead of this, I will say spacer dot class name. It will be a ruler spacer. Now, I want to append the child to space. Append spacer to this label squad. So what does this look like now? So if I reload, I have a div. There's nothing inside it. Why? I not I forgot to append the labels call. Okay, so if you now notice the pattern, uh, you create an element, nice. You we create another element, okay. Then the appending, okay, it depends on who is whom's child, like child of whom. Yeah, who is child of whom? What am I saying? Whom's child? So the main outline or the parent here is the grid. I appended the layout to that, which is the first div with grid layout. Now, in this grid layout, I wanted columns. I want a div column with labels left side. Oh, this is not, this is a dash. Yeah, sorry, typing mistake. So I did a div with labels left side, and inside it I have a ruler spacer. Perfect. So now I have a left side. I also need a row labels, const labels equals, let's again do document dot create element, which would be a div element again, and labels itself will now have a class name set to row dash label. Labels column will have labels. So labels column has spacer, also has labels. We want to loop over a lot of labels. So, okay, actually, I think this is the perfect time to stop. Let's take a look visually. So now we have labels left side, which is this parent here, labels column. And inside it, we have a ruler spacer, and we have a row label. Yes, I am very much out of time actually. So I'm going to just push this part. The best way to check it out is by adding one element, like get element by ID, create an element, create a class name, append one child at a time, and see the visual output. So I see that, okay, I got this element, I added the first append child, and it got this. Then in this parent, I add appended this child, labels left side. And now in this parent, I appended two children. Okay. I got the labels column to have labels. I also got labels column to have spacer. Okay. And that is why they are side by side with each other. So this is how I am creating the grid. And again, the question about why are we using a pen child and not doing it in HTML, so that we can make it dynamic. When we talk about arrays, variables, we can make it dynamic. Okay. Uh, but I think this is where I would take a pause right now, unfortunately. Uh, Join Quinn right after this for introduction to R programming language. And yeah, I'm not going to take too much time. All I ask you again for is feedback. So this was session 2 of Music on Web. So this was part 2. Do provide feedback. Constructive criticism is welcome. All the code is on the GitHub, and you can watch the YouTube video for a revision. All we did was create element, give it a class name, as in that class, and append the child. Okay, and we did this so many times. So when we start the next session, we'll talk about functions. Okay, we'll talk about functions and uh, how we can eliminate these many. Like if you look at it, this is like this has been done 1 2 3 4 times till now, and we'll also do it at least 4 more times. So we'll talk about functions, how we can improve our code so that it is like we don't have to repeat it so many times. Cool. Okay, so that is it from me. Thank you so much everyone for joining, and join Coin in the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.